Great. Hello and welcome. I am super excited to be joining you today to talk to you about Uplevelling. And the title of the webinar today was Uplevelling Your Pay, Performance, Progression and Promotion. But this can be utilised for any goals that you have. It's just easier for me to use some examples and particularly sort of working in the leadership setting. So I'm Sarah Wilson and I'll be taking you through the content today. You will probably need to take some notes, so please do so. So grab a pen and paper or a journal or a pad or whatever and pop your notes down there. You may want to, when we send this through to you, re-watch this and pause at certain points just to reflect on what it is that I've said and to look at that and how that's specific for you. So let's get stuck in. So as I have said previously to the people who were on the call live, there is a Q&A session at the end, but we'll be turning off the recording. So if you have not joined us live today, please do make sure that when I do my next webinar that you do join us live, because you get that extra bit. And it's really important that you have the opportunity to ask any questions. So next time, please do join us live if you are able to. So pop the questions in as you go for the people who are with me today. And also anything that you're finding particularly useful, do just make a note, because it's always useful for me to know what's really settling with you guys and what you're finding really, really helpful. So do feel free to pop that in the chat as well, and I will pick it up later. Okay, so for the purposes of the program that I run and for the purposes of the webinar today, I just want to take you through a simplified version of how the brain works. Now, I'm no psychotherapist, but these are the things that I have found to be true that have been super, super useful for me in helping me to grow and move forward and progress from a place of self-doubt, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about in a moment. So the brain for me is split into three key areas. One is your conscious mind. Now, your conscious mind is your brain with your logic of now. So some of the things that you feel frustrated by, why can't I achieve that? Why is that a problem, etc. That is your conscious mind thinking of those things. But you also have an unconscious mind as well. So your unconscious mind is very much around your programming. So whatever your reality was around the age of 7, that's when your normality starts to be formed. So if you were in a situation where your home life was quite chaotic, then chaotic is what you will be programmed to look for, even if logically you don't want that anymore, within your adult life as well. So your unconscious mind starts creating this programming when you are very, very young. It then grows that creation of those stories based on the evidence it finds. So if you were in a situation where your home life wasn't particularly happy, then what will happen is as you grow, you will continue to find stories. Our brain doesn't want to show us the opposite. It wants to keep refreshing this story. So if your story ultimately was, I am not good enough, then what you'll do beyond the age of 7 is you will look for all of the evidence that adds to that. And then we have a third part, which is the bit that we barely ever tap into, but actually it's the most important part, and that is your higher self. So some people call that intuition. And what happens is over time, we squash our intuition more and more and more. So our intuition encourages us to grow. Our intuition encourages us to make decisions that are the right thing for us, not the comfortable thing for us. So over time, we generally squash our intuition, we squash our higher self, and then that means decision making is really, really hard for us to work out what it is that we want to do and what direction we want to go in. So somebody gave me a great analogy when I was doing my training and qualification for neuro-linguistic programming. And they were saying that if you imagine that your conscious mind, so the you that exists now with all of your thoughts and logic and adultness that you have, you are in a little rowing boat, you've got your oars and you are rowing towards your dreams. So you're rowing as hard as you can. You really, really want these things, but there's a slight problem. Under the water, your unconscious mind is like a naval submarine. And that naval submarine has really clear programming that tells us the direction it wants to go. It's going to a position where we are protecting something, where we are keeping something safe, and nothing is going to budge that. That programming is absolute. And the problem is that you have a chain between the naval submarine and your unconscious mind. Your conscious mind. So if your conscious mind that's rowing towards all of these dreams and beliefs and what have you, if that's the opposite direction to your naval submarine and you have no way of communicating with that programming, what ends up happening is you move away completely from what it is that you want, and you continue to get tired and exhausted and frustrated because you are not getting the things that you wanted, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you focus, because the programming is constantly pulling you away in favor of what it wants instead. So we all have an upper limit. We all have a glass ceiling of where we want to get to. And for the most part, your upper limit is where you are right now. Everybody has it. Steve Jobs had it. Bill Gates had it. Oprah Winfrey has it. But what they have done through their personal development journey and their growth is also got to the stage where they have worked out how to break through the glass ceiling to the next one. And what I'm talking to you about today is going to help you to stop pushing up against that upper limit and not being able to break through it. So any progress needs a plan. So if your thought for next year is, I want to progress because I want a promotion, I want a pay increase, and that is the goal that you are aiming for, then that's not going to work. You have to get incredibly specific with what it is that you need in order for it to actually manifest into happening. So let's imagine then that you've got a sat nav in your car. If you went somewhere, if you just put somewhere into your sat nav would go, well, I don't know what that means. Does that mean you want a magical mystery tour? Does that mean you want to go to somewhere by the sea? Like it just doesn't work. And the universe requires really specific information in order to get where you want to go. And if that idea is a bit too spiritual for you, even logically, you need a plan, you need steps to that plan, you need to know how to make that plan into reality. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. So, for example, let's utilize this pay and progression idea. So what is the role that you actually want? You know, what part do you want to be playing either in your company? What part do you want to be playing in your life? What does that actually look like? Is there a specific job title for it? Is there a specific role that is very unique to what it is that you want to do? Get as specific as you possibly can. So let's say, for example, directorship. That's not specific enough. Director of what? What is it that you want to step into? Because without an idea of what that looks like, you're going to struggle to actually then manifest that happening. What is the pay that you want? How far do you want to go? If there is a ceiling limit to the amount of money that you can achieve where you are at the moment, then maybe that's not the right place for you if actually what you want is more than that. So you should not be in a position where anybody but you dictates how much you can earn. Only you should be able to be in a position where you say, that is the ceiling limit for me that I am comfortable, I'm going to learn to be comfortable about. So your dreams and goals should be scary. And I had a really interesting lesson recently around sort of the fear. So my new goals for 2025 are scary. And part of me started to become very worried that because they were scary, I wasn't going to actually manage to create them because I was scared. But the reality is that actually they should be scary, and it's okay for something to be scary. Being scared of something doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Being scared of something actually is the thing that helps to elevate you to say, I'm doing this. I'm going to do this. And yes, it scares the absolute shit out of me, but I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to go for it. Then we look at that person. So if you imagine that you want to go into a role of, let's use Director of Sustainability, for example. Sustainability is a big thing at the moment. So what you would then look at is, how does that person behave? If I imagine that person in my role, maybe there's somebody in that role at the moment already that you aspire to being. What is different about them? How do they behave? How do they look? If you imagine yourself in that role and absolutely loving it, how do you feel? And the important part, and you may want to pause here just to reflect on this a little bit further, the important part of this is thinking about, who is the next level me? What does he or she or they do? How do they look? If I took a step back from the future version of me, what can I see that's different? Do I dress differently? Do I stand differently? Is there a different energy about me? Is there a different stance that I have? Is there something different that I'm doing with my time? So, for example, you might say at the moment, I can't really afford that David Lloyd membership, but if I was in that position, I would be able to have that David Lloyd membership. And as a result, I would look fitter, I would look happier, I would look more relaxed. I would be taking my sort of day out on improving myself and improving my well-being. So all of those things, it's really important for you to be able to picture. So there are key parts of enabling something to happen. So one of them is making a decision of exactly what you want it to be. It's making a decision about exactly when, and it's making a commitment to say, I'm committed to doing this, I want to do it, and this is how I'm going to do it. And following those steps, even on the days where you worry about it or you stress about it and what have you, ultimately your decision each time is, I keep going, I keep going. So that's the decision-making bit. Then it's important to be able to visualize it. And visualization can take quite a bit of practice. So for me, if I'm struggling to visualize something, which usually happens when I'm feeling scared, I will then write myself a script and read the script, and then I can take myself into my imagination and I can then run the script in my head and start to really focus on what that looks like. Now, just for clarity, one of the reasons that I have got so into manifestation recently is because in the past year I manifested 3 key things in my life that I really, really wanted. One was my own office, which I know might sound silly to some people, but that was really important to me. One was my dream dog, who came and joined us this year as well. And one was my dream house, which I moved into at the end of August. And I know that through making a decision that I wanted those things, what they looked like, and instigating a plan and having the discipline to follow that plan, that is eventually what led me to having these things that were really important to me. So again, if we take the spiritual bit, the woo-woo bit away, there is still a lot of logic in what it is that I'm saying in terms of having a plan, visualizing that plan, making it as real for you as possible so that you can then step into that. So let's talk about self-doubt, because that's the thing generally that comes up. So when I was doing market research into leadership, confidence was the biggest thing that people struggle with in order to get into those leadership positions. So as soon as you have new goals, you will also have a new level of self-doubt that comes in. And there's a saying which is new level, new devil, which is basically each time you get to your upper limit, you then have to do the work again, which I'll give you the tools to support you with that. You then know how to get through the next one and the next one, but the work needs doing each time. So when you hit another upper limit, it's not that you've gone backwards, it's just that you're at that new limit. So whenever you have a new goal, it's because it's different. And we are programmed to hate difference. We are programmed to hate anything that takes us out of what it is that we know. And the reason for that is we used to live in a very different way, and we are still waiting for the thought processes of that to evolve. And I don't know whether they ever will really, but we used to live in a very tribal situation. And our tribal situation meant that we grew up knowing our place, knowing what we were doing. And if anything different happened to the everyday that we were used to, it probably meant that we were in trouble in some way, that we were being attacked, that something had happened, and that then gave us fear and uncertainty. And fear is actually quite a good motivator. Fear makes us do something. So you actually need that fear in order to motivate you to do the things that you need to do. The only problem is you've still got that bit that goes, but I don't like change. I like knowing what I'm doing. I like certainty. Like, how many times do you go into a meeting room and you always gravitate to the same chair? We like habit. We like routine. It's our safety net. But just because that makes us feel safe doesn't mean that that's the limit from what we can achieve. So lack of security is a big deal for us, but also so is the ability to say, it's all right to be scared. It's okay for me to feel fear in this moment because I'm trying to do something different. And your unconscious mind will kick in at that point, and your unconscious mind will bring up all of that backstory. And for the sake of bringing one thing together, almost anything that has been really challenging in your life leads back to one thing, and that is a feeling of, I am not good enough. I am not good enough for what I want. I am not good enough for this relationship. I am not good enough for this job. I am not good enough for that pay rise. I am not good enough for that promotion. So your story predominantly will lead back to this same thing time and time again. So let's talk about how to then quieten the self-doubt, which obviously is a really important part of it. So a lot of people refer to self-doubt as the inner critic. And I think that that's dangerous. And I'll tell you why. Our inner critic gives it too much kudos. Our inner critic, when you hear critic, you kind of think like film critic or something like that. Somebody who is in a position to actually give an opinion on that. So inner critics can sometimes be your own voice, so you feel that you've got to listen to it. And sometimes it will be the voice from somebody from the past. My mum crops into there quite a few times. But actually, your inner critic is just trying to get you to listen in any way that they can, because your inner critic actually is the child version of you. And if you start to view your self-doubt and your worries and your fears as a young version of you coming to you to say, I am scared right now. I don't like this at the moment. And children can be really loud, and children can be really persistent. And that's why when you try to bat off your feelings and your fears and your worries, that's why they keep getting louder. Ever tried to tell a child to go away, or ever tried to ignore a child? They just get louder and louder. So it's really important that you are paying attention to them. And it's a really lovely shift to think about. Okay, so if this is a child telling me, it automatically makes you question, how factual really is this? Where have they got that information from? What have they heard or felt that has led to this fear or worry happening? So the most important thing is to, instead of pushing those thoughts away, is to listen to them. And now sometimes it's not going to be the right moment, because children are also really good at that, choosing the wrong moment. But you can commit to giving that some space a little bit later on. Acknowledge that you are having these thoughts. Acknowledge those thoughts and validate them. Like, they've come from somewhere. Your thoughts are never invalid. They might be not factual, but they're not invalid. If you have a thought or a feeling, you have a thought or a feeling. Don't try and take that away. But what you can do is start to reassure. So you then get to that child's level and you're like, it's okay. You know, we've got this. We can do this. This is a bit different, and I get that that's scary for you, but it's fine. It's going to be an adventure. We're going to do this new thing, and I've got you. Hold my hand. You know, we've got this together. So those old stories that keep coming in loudly, when you start to treat them like they are a child that you like, might I add, then actually what starts to happen is, in giving them that space, like, how many times have you been in a situation where somebody has offloaded to you and they go, oh, thank you so much, I feel so much better, and you go, I didn't really do anything, but you listened, and that was the most important thing for them. You heard them, you gave them the space. And for many of you where this is a completely new concept, for you, your inner child will have been ignored for a really long time. So starting to give them space and starting to give them time to listen to what you're saying is really important. is really, really vital. And at first they'll be like, oh, I didn't know you could do this, and might be a bit reticent. But in time, as you start to develop that relationship, and that's what I teach people to do, that improves and you get better at it. Check in with them. And at first, you'll probably need reminders to check in with them. Am I okay? Is there any fear or worry coming up? How can I reassure that fear or worry? How can I take an action that's going to help in some way through that fear or worry? And then turn the thoughts around. So if you've got a situation where you can literally write down a list of all of the fears and worries, then you can also switch them around. Like that particular fear or worry, what is the opposite of it? In a way, it's something I believe. So let's say, for example, so when I sometimes tell a client that I want them to look in a mirror and say, I am beautiful, most of my clients will be like, oh, that's a really uncomfortable, horrible thing to do. So what I say to them, instead of taking them into that really uncomfortable, horrible place, I will say to them, look in the mirror and focus on one thing that you really like. So lots of clients will do things like, well, I really like my hair, or I have nice eyes, or I have a nice smile or something. And you kind of build up from there. So I'm not saying that the opposite of what your inner child is telling you is necessarily going to be comfortable for you, but there will be something between how horrible they're being about you and themselves. There will be something nice that you would say, because a lot of the time, despite us spending time with ourselves more than we spend with anybody else, we're really horrible to ourselves. We're not our own best friend. We're actually really self-critical. So if you think about, if a friend said this to me, if my child said this to me, how would I respond to it? What would I say instead? Then you can start to piece together what it is that you can do instead. So the most important thing in quietening self-doubt is self-compassion. The amount of people, and me included totally, who get really frustrated with themselves, with these thought processes, with continuing to do the work, with continuing to, you know, an old worry comes up that you haven't heard from for a while. It is frustrating, but the most important thing is self-compassion. You're human, you're learning, you're growing, and those are the most important things. Okay, so let's talk about some things that you can actually do, because we've done a lot of the being. So a daily routine is really important for success. If you imagine, if you get up and you realise that you're late getting up, you rush around in the morning, you go out the door, you get in the car, you hit a load of traffic, you arrive to work with 2 minutes to spare, how incredibly challenging that day is going to be. Whereas if you get up and have a routine that starts your day and gets you into the frame of mind, that's actually a really important way of starting your day. Because whenever I'm late for something, which doesn't happen as often now, but I used to be late for everything, it was just really stressful all the time. I just felt really exhausted and really stressed. And actually, when I started to make time for me in the morning, I realised that I'm not a morning person, so getting up in the morning and getting ready for the day is actually vitally important for me. So setting up your thoughts for the day is really important. And I would encourage you to look at a person called Deborah Searle, who created this whole thing about choosing her attitude each day. I won't go into her story, but do look her up. She's really fascinating. And she talks about choosing your attitude for the day. Now, does that mean that you will have a fabulous attitude all day? No. But when you hit a difficulty, you can then remind yourself that you were going to have a really good day today, and you were going to focus on being grateful. You were going to focus on being organized. You were going to focus on being cheerful. You were going to focus on being happy. Anything that you choose that is a describing word for your mood is absolutely fine. So if you are presenting that day, you might choose, I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be confident today. And when you're not feeling confident, you can say to yourself, I said I was going to be confident today. How can I get back into that? And it empowers you to stay in that mood for as much as you can of the day. Once you have gone through what we talked about earlier with visualizing exactly what your goal is, when you've done that and you've written it down, keep reading it. Like if you write it in a notebook and it never sees the light of day again, you will not achieve those goals. You need to have them in front of you. You need to have some tangible things that are going to remind you. So some people, me included, like a visual vision board. I've got one on my desktop. I'm about to create one that will go back up on the wall because my one for 2024 has gone down. I have things like what's on my message board at the moment. So I have a check written out for the amount of money that I would like to earn this year. And so having those things, those visual things are really important because we're not just taking in words, we're also taking in all of the information that comes to us in a visual way as well. And particularly if you're a visual learner, having something visual in front of you is really important. So take elements of what it is that you want and start to visualize it. So let's say, for example, you decide that particular day, right, today I'm going to think about, what did I say earlier? So I'm going to think about how I would look if I was in that role. So, right, okay, so what am I wearing? How am I standing? How do I think I'm feeling inside? And you start to visualize those things. Visualization is a really, really key alignment method to get what you want. Then catch the worries throughout the day. And I always find these really important. So, oh, you can't see. There we go. If I put it in front of my face, you can. Memo block squares, really, really important for catching a negative thought. Don't have to do anything with it apart from write it on that square, pop it to one side and make sure that you've got some time to check them out later so that you can start to talk and address those things. And that's about worry time and calming them and reassuring that part of you that you are okay. Gratitude is also a really important thing. So every day I write in my gratitude journal to say the things that I'm really grateful for that day. And that again is a really powerful force for helping you to get what it is that you want as well. So I'm hoping that you're finding this helpful. Don't forget to be popping in any comments or questions that you might have into the chat about anything I've talked about so far, and I'll pick those up at the end and we'll continue to do so. So let me talk to you a little bit about how I can help you a little bit further with this, because obviously within an hour's webinar to a group of you, there is only so much that I can do in terms of helping you to move forward, because each of you have got your own specific story. So if you're thinking of working with me on a one-to-one basis, I'm just going to take you through a few of the things that you can expect just to give you a better idea. And then I'm going to drop some links in that take you through what the program is, what it does, what the offer is at the moment, and also what you can expect. And you will have links to this at the end as well. And then after I've talked to you through this, we're just going to go through some more strategies and confidence things that I think would be really, really useful for you. Okay, so first of all, who are you if you're working with me? So you are an aspiring leader, you are a people manager who is either managing people right now or aspires to doing that. You want to step up in some way in your career progression, but you have a limiting story that is preventing you from doing that. For me, I act as your mentor, your coach, your cheerleader, and your accountability buddy. And for the most part, we're not very good at taking action without somebody who's completely got our back, who's completely ready for us there. You've been trying to do things yourself, like watching podcasts, listening to podcasts in the car, reading self-help books, but it's just not quite working into a trajectory that you actually want. Predominantly, I do work with women, but over the past couple of years, a number of men have come to me with self-limiting beliefs that are really, really stopping them from where they want to be. So I work with men and women. There is no restriction to either. If you've got a limiting story or a limiting set of beliefs, then I'm here to help with that. One of the most important things is, instead of looking behind at the things that you want to leave behind, you turn yourself around to the things that you want to walk forward to, because whatever we focus on grows. And if we're focusing on the fact that we feel anxious and unsure and worried and self-doubting, those are the things that get bigger. If we turn around instead and focus on the fact that we want calm, we want to be self-focused, we want self-esteem, we want confidence, we want the ability to take feedback, those are the things that will grow instead. And there are so many examples of people who have been successful but have a backstory that really could have prevented them if they'd not worked through it. So some examples are Stephen Bartlett, Patrice Evora, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, really successful people. And I'm not saying that I would get you to that level of success, but certainly give you some tools to help you start working towards that. But actually, it's not really about a pay increase that you want. It's not really a promotion you want. That's not what it's really about. It's about proving something to yourself or to others who said that you wouldn't succeed. And it's about happiness, choice, and freedom. So you may want that promotion because you want to provide for your family, or you want to start getting ready for a family. But actually what that comes to is happiness, choice, and freedom. Having the choice to do something with that money. It doesn't matter if you want $1 billion yacht or whether you want to be able to go out for dinner with your family whenever you want. It's your version of happiness, choice, and freedom. You want to choose to spend your time and energy on the right things instead of spending so much of your time being exhausted from worrying or wondering what happened to your confidence that you used to have. Instead of focusing your time on those and working endless hours to try and get it, what happens is you're much more focused in intuitive with your time, and therefore you start to actually have some time for the things that are really important to you, and also maybe the income for that as well. So the program itself consists of 8 sessions. You have 2 a month, so you work with me for 4 months. It's one-to-one over Zoom because that's where you're comfortable. You can be wherever you like when you're on Zoom. You can be on the sofa with a cup of tea, you can be in your study with a glass of wine, you know, it doesn't matter. It's about being comfortable. And although I'd intended to do face-to-face sessions after the pandemic, the reality was that actually nobody wanted to get ready, get in their car, find a parking space. They just wanted to be able to sit down and be with somebody who can help them. There's also some time for reflective practice and embedding the habits, which is why the sessions are 2 every month as opposed to 4, so that you've got that time in between times to start to embed these habits. This is not an 8-week program where you come and work with me and tick a box. This is about making lifestyle changes that help you to be more aligned to the success that you are looking for. And everything I do is tried and tested. So the program as it stands now is version, I don't know how many, because every time I take in new learning, I help the program to grow and help my clients to get even better results. So why me? So I have lots of lived experience of struggling with self-esteem and self-confidence. I had a really lovely early childhood. I was a teen with my mum and dad. It was fantastic, and I felt really part of it. And then a whole set of life circumstances happened to us around the age of 10 for me, all the way through to about 14, and that really rocked our relationship. And our relationship then was really bad, very confusing, and then I took that into adult relationships as well. And it was only really when I left my abusive marriage in 2009 that I decided that if I didn't make some significant change, that was going to be me going through that ricochet relationship cycle over and over again. So I chose, at the time, my motivation was my 3-year-old son, to do something very different. And I started to learn more about myself. And then years after that I started to think maybe there are other people I could help who had been in the same situation. So for me, that was a really important part of it. So the other thing is, and I was kind of wondering whether to add this, but I've been nominated for a Transformational Coach of the Year award. So I am finding out late January whether I've been successful with that, but I'm feeling super excited. So it's lovely to be recognised as really making a difference to people's lives. Let's talk a little bit about the investment. You'll get all of this information afterwards, but I just wanted to talk you through it. So the investment in terms of times are a couple of hours a month for the sessions, a new habit of making time that fits into your calendar on a daily basis for you, and for these things to be embedded and to grow. Embedding time is really, really important. The sessions are great, but they are just the foundation for you to then go and do the things that I'm suggesting and go and try the things that I know will be super valuable for you. So the prices are currently frozen for anybody who signed up to the webinar. So whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on replay, the prices have been frozen for you guys as well. And I do also have a little bonus, a cheeky bonus. So if you book a call before 6 o'clock on the 1st of January, then I am offering a Coach in Your Pocket service, which is a text service between the hours of 9 and 6, Monday to Friday, where if you are struggling with something or if you want a bit of a pep talk or what have you, you can reach out to me. So that's a really key mentorship part of the program. You can also opt to add it for the whole of the program, but you can choose whichever month that you want to put it into. So let's say, for example, we work together for a little bit and then you're applying for jobs and going for interviews. You might choose Coach in Your Pocket to be in your 3rd month of working with me, because that's when you're going for your interviews and what have you. So the choice is yours to do that. So the payment wise, the biggest saving is to pay in full. And just a quick note, I feel it's really important to say this. If you opt to pay in full, but you're spreading the cost through something else, like your credit card or PayPal, which are both options of payment I take, I really would urge you to look at 0% so that you are not paying anything additional for that. I think that's really important because I don't like the idea of people getting into debt in order to work with me, but the options are there for you. So that gives you an idea of the investment. I'm just popping the links in. One of the links is to all the information I've just talked you through, and the other one is if you're feeling super keen to go ahead and book a call with me. If you're watching this on replay, you won't be able to see this in the chat, but I will make sure that it's in your replay email so that you have got access to it. So if you're keen to book a call, then please do click on the link and come and join me. It would be amazing to have a chat with you to see if you would be a good fit, and then see if it would be a good idea for us to work together to help you get to the goals that you want and where you want to be. So let's get back to the content. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the being, we've talked a lot about the planning, but obviously sometimes there are the logistics as well in terms of up-leveling, and that might be competency based. So what skills do you need in order to up-level? So sometimes there are the more being skills like emotional intelligence. How do I create emotional intelligence with my team to ensure that they feel supported and that they are high performing? But it might also be qualifications and experience. And it's about thinking, where am I going to get these from? Who am I going to speak to about getting these things? Maybe there is somebody in the level above you, the level where you want to go, who would be really useful to have a chat with. Go and buy them a coffee. Go and buy them a coffee and say, look, I'd love to take you out for a coffee. I really would like to pick your brains about the things that you think would be most useful for me. The most important thing when you want to up level is to surround yourself with people who've already got it, because what you'll realize is it's actually really achievable, it's really doable, and if you have any feelings that they are better than you in some way, a coffee with them is going to completely put that to bed. They are just normal people. They were where you are. Everybody was a beginner at something at some point. Everybody, but you carried on going and you got there. And that will be what those people have done. And there are a lot of people out there who are way less skilled than you, who are way less performance focused than you, doing the things that you like. And the only difference is that they believed they could. That's it. It's not because they're better than you or anything. They just believed that they could. They made a plan and they went and executed the plan. It really is as simple as that. Also think about, where are you spending your time or energy? So let's say, for example, you have got your role, you're looking after your team, you've also got a family, you've got children, you've got a parent who relies on you more for support now that they're getting older. Whereabouts are you spending that energy? Maybe then in your downtime, you're supporting a friend who is always really, really negative. those things are not going to be helpful to you. And I'm certainly not suggesting that you drop anybody. What I'm suggesting is that you balance out your time. What are you doing that makes you feel good? What are you doing that helps you specifically to be a better version of yourself? And maybe for you, that's exercise. Maybe for you, that's yoga. That could be a number of different things. But it's really important to work out, where am I spending my time and energy? And are they the best things for me to be able to support the people in my life that I want to? And it's things like, where can I empower my children? So maybe you've got young children, maybe they could help out a bit more around the house. Maybe you can empower them to do some other things. Maybe you could ask your partner to step up a little bit and collect your daughter from ballet once a week, because it's a real rush around for you and you could do with not doing it. You know, there are so many different ways that you can look at how you spend your time and energy, and either balance it out with something that you really like to do instead, or balance it out by making sure that if you've got to do that thing, so let's say you're looking after your mum who's not very well, you also do something that you really enjoy and that is important to you. Who you spend your time with and where you put your energy is really important. There is no overdraft for energy. Once you've got to the end of whatever your energy is, that's your health at that point. And it's not going to help anybody if you get to a stage where you are completely stopped because you didn't pay any attention to it. And also, how much time are you spending at the moment on overthinking? How much time are you spending on worry? And worry only exists usually in the past or the future. If you are in a situation where you are feeling worry, it's unlikely it's in this moment right now that it's relevant to. Because if you're in that moment right now, you're going to do something about it. So it's always a past or a future worry that you have got focused on in your brain. And that's just exhausting in amongst doing all the things that you're doing at the moment. So let's talk about easy confidence boosts, where I get to share one of my favorite facts with you ever. So you need an emergency confidence boost for the most part when you're about to do something that's a bit scary to you. So for you, that might be you've committed to speaking up more in meetings, but you're quite introverted and that's still a thing. You're about to do a presentation. You're about to go to an interview. So those are generally the three things where you'll feel a shouting from your inner child going, this is scary and I don't like it. That's not a thing that's supposed to then stop you, but there are things that you can do. So the first one is breath work. And I wanted to give you a really, really super easy one. So one of the super easy ones is, and I'll do it with you, so feel free if you would like to join in. So all it is in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And you do that repeatedly until you start to calm down. The other one is attached to your eyebrow, if you very gently pinch, is your vagus nerve. If you keep moving along your eyebrow like this repeatedly, or you can double whammy it with both eyebrows, that releases a calming hormone in your brain that stops you from worry. Very, very useful. Just do it gently, otherwise you'll end up with red eyebrows and people will be like, what have you been doing? So just a gentle one is fine. But my favorite fact is, did you know that the Wonder Woman pose was created by psychologists purposefully? So that pose of, sorry boys, stand up straight, boobs out, head tall, hands on hips, is actually created to align your body in a certain way that it floods you with confidence, which is definitely one of my most favorite film things ever. So the Wonder Woman pose, obviously you're not going to want to do that in the middle of the waiting room or your office, but you can nip yourself off to the loo, into a cubicle and quickly do that. And watch what happens to you as you take that stance, because actually it starts to flood your body with confidence and you feel like you can do something. There are obviously other things that you can do. So I have a I'm the CEO playlist, which is specifically got things on it that are really, really, really important and like really strong songs that really work for me. Adam Won't Lose is a good thing to follow on Spotify as well. It's basically very powerful speeches to things like interstellar music behind, and they're really great to listen to, and they make you go, yeah, I can do this, yeah, I'm great. So that's always really beneficial as well. So I'm hoping that you found that useful. Do pop any questions that you've got into the chat. I'm just going to close the session for the people who are watching on rewatch, but if you're watching live, stay with me because there's a little bit extra still to go. So I hope that was useful. Pop any feedback you've got into the chat, including anything that you found particularly useful for me if you're with me now. And for those who are watching, well, actually, no, for all of you, I will be sending the replay plus the links across to you. I would ask that you bear with me because I have a virtual assistant normally to do this, and she's very selfishly on holiday with her family at the moment. So I will get it to you as soon as I possibly can. I hope you have enjoyed today. I'm going to switch off the recording now. And if you want to book a call with me, you will have all of the information sent to you, but you can just respond to any of the emails that I've sent about this session. They'll come directly to me, and then that way I can respond to them. So thank you if you're watching on rewatch. If you're with me live, stick with me, and I'm going to turn off the recording now.